Hello, and you're very welcome to the JMAC podcast. I'm John Man. Of course, this podcast is brought to you by yourgretch.com. Use my promo code JMAC podcast to get 15% off on our website, and of course, 20% off until the end of January. So get your hands on the gear. And tonight, I'm joined by GA Statsman Matthew Hurley and former Antrim footballer Kevin McGurty to talk about the year ahead and see what we're going to be dealing with now and make a few predictions, a bold call. So, first podcast of the year. Great to have the lads on board. Matthew, your first year with the JMAC podcast. Kev, your third year with the JMAC podcast, so things are flying. Matthew, it's great to have you on board, my man.
Thanks very much, John. Delighted to be on the podcast. Watched the podcast for years, brilliant stuff, and the podcast bit of crack as well. So, looking forward to getting into it now in the next few months.
Good stuff. And you're going to be with Kevin for the year. What's that feel like?
I'd say it'll be grand. It'll be all good anyway. Sure, we'll get used to it. The crack will be going through the roof, man.
Yeah, it's kind of like it's like a marriage with all these lads. We just have to. That marriage has to be good. Mr. McGurty, how are you? It's been a long time.
It has, John. Thankfully, I have been good. I'm better now that we're into 2023. It's into January, start of a new GA season. We got our appetites whetted yesterday, didn't we? With a few tasty games and a few on the side, Royal Rumbles, WrestleManias inside Croke Park to get our appetite wet. Obviously the McKenna Cup's ongoing. We've also the Connacht League going and the McGrath Cup. And I think the O'Byrne Cup, but whether it started, but whether it'll finish, we don't know yet. So it's great the pre-season's upon us. New year, obviously new dreams for many teams. Many teams looking retribution from last year. So many different storylines, new managers, players retiring, and this podcast is going to be great over the next 10, 12, 14 weeks as we go through the league and championship. So really, really looking forward to it. And the only thing I'd say is the only negative I've got to put on it is the McKenna Cup is up €3, 3 punts, and Cavan people are already complaining about the prices.
He was 100% thinking about that all day. You could bet your bottom dollar. Great to have you on board, lads. So really looking forward to this chat today. And I suppose, Matthew, I can just ask you briefly, what have you made of Cork's, season, obviously so far? And obviously, it's a lot of shadow boxing and a lot of lads in and out. But I suppose, are you happy with Cork's progression so far?
You'd have to be. The first game against Kerry, I've got to that before I came over here. And it was a brilliant showing. A 12-point win over Kerry, you have to be happy. Any win over Kerry, if you win by that margin, but albeit Kerry were playing their third, fourth team, we have to take that into consideration as well. Yeah, Cork were outstanding. Colm O'Callaghan with 2-4 from midfield, one of the best scoring returns of the year so far. And he was absolutely outstanding in that game. Brian Hurley, Stephen Sherlock, hitting the lights out, Chris Oak-Jones. It was a weird one with Chris Oak-Jones because at the start of last season we were thinking, is he up to the level of Cork football? But now he scored, I think it's 2-2 in 2 games. So he's done pretty well. The Kerry game was a good performance. The Clare game yesterday, I was watching that on the live stream and wasn't really impressed with the team's performance. But to go over there, to go to near Spanish Point in County Clare and get a win, it's a good win. Cork have struggled against Clare over the last few seasons. The league, we drew against them in Páirc Uí Chaoimh. We probably should have won the game. And I'm thinking now that this is the year where we have to overtake the likes of Clare, Limerick, Tipperary and really challenge Kerry. I know Kerry are an outstanding side and rightly so, All-Ireland champions, but there comes a time now with this Cork football team that they need to be challenging for the major silverwares because it's one of the biggest counties in the country. And you look at Kevin Walsh coming into the backroom team, that's going to be huge for the players to give them a bit of confidence defence-wise. And attack-wise as well, I think the signs are very good. Once we get the ball from defence, we break quickly. Any Ulster team, a bit like Donegal in 2012 or Derry last season. That's some good signs for Cork football. But look, early days yet, John. The Meath game is just around the corner. That'll be the main focus for these players.
Good stuff, Matthew. Good stuff. I suppose, Kevin, can you touch on to yourself? Probably a bit of a mixed bag for Antrim so far, starting off the year under Mr. Andy McEntee. But the year ahead, Kevin, but I suppose so far, what have you made of Antrim's year?
Yeah, John, it's going to be I think the grave diggers are already out for us at the minute. It's not looking very good. And that's no fault of either the players nor the management and the effort that they're putting in. I thought it was always going to be a watershed year, a transition year. As I said to you at the tail end of last year, I also spoke on GA Fan TV about this. Ireland, Antrim's better players are very much, they're very much at the tail end of their 30s or in their mid 30s, and have had a lot of injuries. The Tomas McCanns, the Mick McCanns, the Conor Murrays of this world. We have boys there that are very accomplished club footballers, like Matthew Fitzpatrick, who's on a professional soccer contract at the minute. So when you have your best club footballers not available to you, and when we see already this year 2, substantial defeats, as I would call them, one was always coming against Armagh, but in the manner of that defeat, I think Armagh racked up 221 that day. And again, Andy McEntee, as I said, when I spoke to you about him last year, coming into the job, he's going to have to look at his defence more than anything. You've got to start with your defence before you build forward. A lot of young lads in there, which is great, to bring the young lads in early this year. The 2 boys from St. Bridget's, the Finnegan brothers, their father, Greg, would have played a bit for Antrim. He was St. Paul's man. They're good, 2 good, strong footballers. Pat Shivers, who came in last year. Jimmy Gribben, who came in last year. They're involved, so there is signs for the future. But unfortunately, when you're looking at experience, really, I don't think we have it in abundance. And, finishing up, John, on this question, really, when we look at a team like Cavan last month, and this is no disrespect to your own county, who done very well last year, and coming out of the league, and then obviously, progressing in the Telstra Cup. They beat Antrim comprehensively last year in Corrigan Park, and they're in Division 3, the same as Antrim. And it should be games like that Antrim should be targeting. Again, we concede 2 goals. I think, what was it, 215 we conceded, something similar to that. And again, that's 17 scores in a game. Ain't going to win you any game in the national, or you're not going to win any game in the National League conceding that type of stuff. So while on the one hand, I understand that, Andy McEntee's coming in and he's experiencing all these new players and putting his own sort of his own stamp on the blank canvas, if you want to put it that way, and trying out players. It's a very quick turnaround of the league. They've had 2 thumping defeats, 1 by a team in the same league as them. And, I just find this year, I've said it to you maybe off the record, but I'll say it on the record now. I find it very difficult to see where Antrim are getting any points in Division 3 from. 4 points will probably keep you up. I think that might be a bit of a stretch for Antrim this year. And the league, again, would be their big target. So, it's not looking great, John, and we're only 3-4 weeks into the new year.
Yeah, 100%, Kevin. I suppose me and you maybe were having a bit of a conversation about the year ahead last week, and we were just kind of maybe thinking, Andy McEntee coming in, and we did kind of remark a couple of months ago, maybe last year, that okay, like I wouldn't jump on to another county. 1 or 2 weeks later, the Antrim job comes up, he takes the Antrim job, and maybe from that point of view, maybe there's a few permutations, why, and the ifs and the maybes, but it's probably been a difficult kind of start for him. So I think Andy, from that kind of point of view, like I wouldn't say cursing his luck, but it can't be easy up there.
No, it's not easy. Again, as I say, I spoke to you and I've spoke to others and 3 or 4 different podcasts at the tail end of this year on the problems within Antrim in terms of coaching, in terms of schools, in terms of clubs doing work. St. Bridget's, Craigan, Ernzo and Corgan are definitely bringing good teams through and good players through that are county standard. But bar that, there isn't that many clubs doing great work generally right across the board. In fact, indeed, the bigger clubs in Belfast, the likes of St. John's, St. Gall's, St. Paul's, and to a lesser extent, Lavyard, are struggling a wee bit to bring new blood through. And when you don't have them old superpowers, and when you don't have 8 or 9 or 10 or 11 clubs contributing to your county team, then you're going to have issues and problems. As I say, older players retired. There's nothing much Andy can do about that. But our problems are more deep-rooted than at senior level. Again, minor has been a big issue, and under 21 has been a big issue for us over the last decade and a half. So, Andy came back in and he jumped in and he probably wanted to get back into inter-county management. Nobody can blame him. And, you've got to say to the guy, fair play, he wants to come and make a go of it. but this is a whole different ball game than Meath. Different expectations, certainly by fans. It's a different level of football, in my opinion, altogether. You know, the physical and strength and conditioning of Meath players coming into the county team are maybe, you know, there's far superior to what Antrim players would be in. You know, the amount of players, you know, raw talent out there in Meath that can be discovered is wholesome, whereas in Antrim it's few and far between. So there's a lot of things that Andy maybe didn't consider when taking the job that certainly he's finding out very quickly, the difficulties that lie ahead. And, you know, unfortunately, this is where we are. You know, they've got to dig their heels in and try and, you know, get a game plan together quite soon. But as I say, a lot of rookie guys in there and not a lot of experience. And, you know, when you're in Division 3 this year, especially, when you look at the teams in that division, when you look at Down, when you look at Offaly, when you look at Cavan, when you look at Westmeath, who never got out of that league this year but won the Tailteann Cup, you know, so you've got your 2 Tailteann Cup finalists from last year. You've got Down under Lavery, who have already started, and I'll come to talk about him in later podcasts, who are going to be favourites for that league, in my opinion. And you have an Offaly team under new management and Liam Kearns, but who have a good under-20 base to work from that they did previously. So them 4 teams automatically, you know, before you consider, you know, Tipperary to come up last year as well. So, you know, for Antrim, as I said, the outlook is quite bleak in the early weeks of 2023.
There we go, Kevin. There we go. Well summarised, and we will wait and see what Antrim's year lies ahead. I suppose as we can touch on to the Allianz Football League, and we can maybe touch on to Division 4 for starters. And in Division 4 this year, you have Sligo, Leitrim, Wexford, Waterford, Carlow, London, Laois and Wicklow. And obviously Cavan and Tipperary got out of this division last year. Obviously played the Division 4 final. Cavan got over the line. So obviously they'll play Division 3 football this year, lads. But I suppose, Matthew, what are we thinking for Division 4 this year? Lots of teams vying for promotion there, and obviously maybe Sligo and Leitrim, the teams mad for them first, probably could be favourites to go up, but all to play for.
It is now. I suppose you have to say Waterford would be last place anyway. A lot of people were saying that, like, football isn't that strong in Waterford, and if you Fitzgerald, it's kind of hard for him to, you know, build the team. You probably have to say they're 8th. Then after that, you'd probably say 3 teams up to 5th. Probably Carlow. I think their defence is very bad. Had the worst defensive record in the whole Allianz League. That's Divisions 1 to 4. And they only scored 113 in the O'Byrne Cup, and 111 of that came from Dara Foley. So it shows you how reliant they are on him. And I don't think Carlow look very strong this year. Wexford could be an up and down year again. I don't know, like a lot of people, including myself, were saying Wexford for promotion years and years ago, and even last year, and they just flatter to deceive every year. So I'd probably say Wexford would be in that zone as well. And London, like, London had a great year last year, drawing Sligo in the Tailteann Cup. Took them all the way to extra time. They were competitive. But, like, there's the feeling that there's a lot of teams in Division 4 that will find London out. They'll know Liam Gavigan's threats. They'll know Michael Marr's tactics. And I think London will struggle for that reason. So you'd probably look towards that top half, that top 4, and you'd say 2 of them are going up. You look at Laois. Like, even Laois, like, 3 of their players retired last year in John O'Loughlin, Ross Munley. And, like, I think it's going to take a while for Billy Sheehan to, you know, integrate those players for the next few seasons. Then you look into the top 3. Wicklow, like, it'll be difficult with Wicklow. Like, the O'Byrne Cup didn't bode well for Wicklow. They got a few trimmings. So I think they got a trimming in the second game, right? They lost to Dublin in the first game, definitely. You probably have to look toward the 2 Connacht sides. Leitrim under Andy Moran look a very good side. Like, Keith Byrne is very good. Paul Keady from St Mary's Kiltockert's come into the team this season, and he's in UL team for the Sickerton Cup. Very good player. And Sligo looked very good in the Tailteann Cup last year in the semi-finals, and maybe on another day could have beaten Cavan in that semi-final. Like, and Sligo, Tony McAtee into another year there, Pat Spillane there, Sean Carragine, Mikey Gordon. They have very good players all over the field, Sligo. So for me, I'd probably say at this early stage, I'd probably go Sligo and Leitrim to go up. But I think Wicklow under Oisin McConville won't be far off either. Like, Oisin, you've seen him on the Sunday game. He's a very good tactician. So it'd be interesting to see how he delves into the job. And integrates these young players in the team. You look at the young players all over. Kevin Quinn's a very good player. I'm a really fan of him. Owen Darcy's a good player. Malachi Stone. They have very good players all over the field. So it'll be interesting to see how Oisin McConville, works with the players. But I would say Leitrim and Sligo are probably going to go up.
Touching on to Laois there for a second match, and obviously that was a very good point with Billy O'Loughlin. Ross Munnelly retired in the last couple of months. It really does look like it's going to be an uphill task for Billy Sheehan there with the Laois footballers, Matthew, and down a lot of men. Laois is a proud footballing county. They're in Division 4. They could be there for a couple of years if things will get sorted out. It's probably a sorry enough state of affairs down there.
It is. It's a strange one with Laois because their underage is actually decent enough. Like, they were in an under 20 final a few years ago against Dublin, and they actually competed very well against them. They have good players like Mark Barry coming up through the ranks. I don't know where Graham Brody's gone, actually. Like, I've seen him in recent years, very, very good goalkeeper, and he's just gone off the ball altogether. Port Harlinson, like, will their players come back into the team? Like, or Billy Sheehan, but we'll have to wait and see. But I think the main thing is the retirements in this team. Ross Munnelly, you always knew he was going to retire. Not only was Ross Munnelly a fantastic forward on his day, but he was an excellent leader as well. And I think Laois will miss that from the dressing room. Colin Begley, another one, huge gap in the dressing room as well. John O'Loughlin, I still think, had a lot more years to give. And I don't know why he went away. Maybe he was thinking there's nothing in this Laois team, I don't know. But maybe... I know Laois are struggling and they're trying to get back to where they want to be, which is probably Division 3, Division 4 standards. But you have to take into consideration as well, Wicklow, their young players coming through, Leitrim under Andy Moore now in their second year, and Sligo, like, getting to a Tailteann Cup semi-final, that will improve you as you go on. And Sligo last year in Division 4, they were very unlucky not to go up. Like, they could have easily beaten Tipperary to that promotion spot, and arguably, if Tipperary lost that game against Cavan, they beat Cavan in that league season, then Sligo could have gone up with Cavan, So I think Sligo, they're out for revenge this year. They're probably going to go up. But for Laois, if they stay up in Division 4 maybe for 2-3 years, I think this is a worrying time for Laois. And maybe it's time for a bit of transition in that team to integrate the new young players. But the older players, I think, are going to leave massive gaps in that dressing room.
Yeah, 100%. I suppose, Kevin, touching on to Matthew's point there, what would be your take on Division 4 for the year ahead?
I think Matthew is articulated that absolutely brilliantly. Bottom half, top half, quite clearly. I would sort of agree with him on the Laois project. It's an embarrassment. When you look at a county as proud as Laois, and I don't put that on Billy Sheehan's shoes alone. I look at down underage coming up through. Munnelly, when you've got Munnelly there and you've got John O'Loughlin and Begley, who've been soldiering for a number of years, and they're not really being pushed out by anybody. They're not being challenged by anybody. Then you have to ask what's happening underneath, minors and under 20s. They probably do need to stay a year or two in Division 4, in my opinion. Build up, get the young lads experience in there, build up that, I suppose, the game plan that they had. They were absolutely woeful last year, woeful in Division 3, and rightly got relegated. It was shocked to many people, including myself, but they were woeful. So they're sort of right back down to base, start from basics, get the young lads up, get a game plan going. And I suppose that rivalry this year between them and Wicklow will be quite interesting, right beside one another, playing each other in the league, two big personalities on the line. And I think Matthew made another good point about McConville, started off quite well against Dublin. I think it was awfully, give them an awful trimming, Matthew, in the second game in the O'Byrne Cup. But, he'll come in there and he'll be wanting to put a stamp on that team very, very quickly. And remember, they were relegated last year, so they want to bounce right back up. And, I've no doubts that they'll be in contention for the playoff. And it's probably going to be between them and Leitrim. I take on board Matthew's point about the likes of Keith Byrne and Leitrim and the way they played last year. They were a bit of up and down team. One week they were, surprising you. The next week, a poor result. And it's going to be, I sort of think, between Wicklow and Leitrim for that second place. I do think Sligo are the team to beat in that league. But then again, they've been on the road for 3 years under McEntee. Okay, albeit some of that in the poor times of COVID, but really, I think he's probably the longest serving manager in that league coming into the league. You know, and he'll be much further down the line with his personnel, with his game plan. We sort of seen that coming together in bits and pieces last year, where they were very schizophrenic. They had this a woeful away trip to Wexford, I think, at the start of the league last year, and lost. And nobody would have foreseen that coming, the way the state Wexford were in. And then for the first 25, 30 minutes against your own county, John, they were really, really good. I think they were 8-4 up at one time against Cavan in the league game, you know. And then obviously Matthew then mentioned they're showing in the Telstra Cup semi-final and getting there. So, you know, there is bright shoots growing there, but they have to act on it. And the last thing I would say is, while I would find Sligo probably favourites, just slight favourites for that league at the minute, unfortunately, I played a lot of my inter-county football in Division 4, and it's an absolute minefield. It's a bookie's dream. Nobody knows any day of the week what's going to happen down there. You know, we've seen London last year, 2 or 3 upsets, Wexford upset Sligo. You know, it's a very difficult league to judge on any given day, and especially with winter weather and whatever else have you. So I do agree there's a top 4 and a bottom 4. I do think Sligo are the side that are furthest down the road in terms of their game plan and in terms of where they are on their journey. And I really think then it's a dogfight, I would think, really between Wicklow and Leitrim then for that second spot.
I suppose if you're going to make predictions on it, Matthew, who will get promoted from all that, do you reckon?
I'd agree with what Kevin was saying about Sligo. Like, there is sort of pressure on them, but I just have to say Sligo first place. Like, they're an absolutely incredible side when you look at the players, look at the individual talent. Like Pat Spillane, he was only new to the team last year, and he'll come in all bouncing out this year. Sean Carabine looked very good in that FBD Cup game, and that FBD Cup game, while I'm on it as well, against Roscommon, they were ahead by a goal at half time, and then they got a red card 4 minutes into the second half, and that completely changed it. So, like, it shows that Sligo can compete with these sides as well, and I think that will stand to them as well to get promoted. Second place, I think it's going to be between the other 3. I'm going to stick with Leitrim. I just think they've just better forwards, and Andy Moran is in his second year of the job. Oisin McConville is in his first year, and I think it'll take a while really for McConville to get his stamp his authority on the Wicklow team, whereas Andy Moran, there were signs last year that Leitrim were making progress under him. So I think they'll make even more this year. They won't, slip up as badly as they did last year, case in point against London, which was an absolutely surprising result really. But yeah, I'd have to say the 2 kind of counties will be going up to Sligo and Leitrim.
Super stuff, lads. Super stuff. I suppose we can move on to Division 3, where you have Tipperary, Longford, Down, Cavan, Offaly, Antrim, Westmeath, and Fermanagh. So it'll be very, very tight, I would imagine. Obviously, my own County Cavan are in this Division 3, so I think they will find it quite tough against some of them teams this year. And the first game is away to Westmeath, so it'll be interesting to see how that goes. But Kevy, there's a lot you could make strong cases for 4 to 5 teams to get promoted out of this division, and obviously make strong cases for people to go down. But yeah, Division 3 will be worth keeping an eye on, Kevy.
It's the most interesting division in the National Football League in 2023. And so many different narratives around this division. I would tend to disagree with your thought process. I think there is 2 or 3 teams that can or will be in the mix to be promoted, and the other 5 teams are in the mix to be relegated. I really do. When we consider all of these different teams, their background over the last 18 months, down a real shambles, hadn't won a game in so long, Lavery's come in, that initial boost. I think they'll get a really, really good boost off him. For me, themselves and Offaly are the 2 favourites to go up. As I say, Offaly with a new manager in as well, but a good base in their under-20s. Westmeath would be the other team. Then you'd be looking and saying, can they kick on from what they've done last year? Good players throughout the park. Obviously the strength of somebody like John Hesson, who was carrying them a bit in the league last year, if truth be told. And they were very up and down in the league. They were losing games at home they should never have lost last year, and that's what ultimately cost them. And then there's also 4 Ulster derbies. If you look at this, there are 4 Ulster teams in this league, which is quite unusual for Division 3. And Fermanagh, again, a bit like Sligo in certain terms last year, very schizophrenic. 1 week they were getting absolutely hockeyed. The next week they were putting out a result. Cavan, going to Fermanagh, sure, that's anybody's game. Fermanagh and Down, depending on where that game is anybody's game. And, Fermanagh surprised me already this year in that I expected them to ship 2 heavy defeats in the McKenna Cup. They didn't. And Kieran, as I said to you before, Kieran Donnelly's a good lad, a very good coach, and he's in the 2nd or 3rd year. They're on that sort of project down there, but I would think most Fermanagh supporters would be happy for them to stay in the league. I've spoke previously to you about Antrim, where they are. Longford, really tricky place to go. Any teams go down there, if they don't come out with a win easily. So, we might see 1 or 2 upsets there. But for me, if I'm looking at 2 teams to be relegated, I'm certainly looking at Antrim being one of them, if I'm honest with you. And 2 teams to go up, I'm going to say Down and Offaly. But I wouldn't be surprised if Westmeath are involved in that. John, you're looking at me as if Cavan. I just don't know with Cavan. Last year in the league, even in Division 4, they were very unpredictable, even in that division. It's not that they were never going to get to the league final. It was their performances and their consistency, John. And again, very much like Westmeath, and I hate saying this, it's a simple narrative for any commentator. But realistically, Matthew's the stats man here. Maybe he could tell me this. The over-reliance on Geroid McKiernan at times in games to keep the scoreboard ticking over. But also, when I talked to you about that Sligo Cavan game in the league last year, when Cavan were 8-4 down, Geroid McKiernan stood up and kicked the next 4 points. His leadership ability, also the leadership ability of people like Martin Riley, who are the senior players within the team, that's fine. But there was an over-reliance in Cavan and these guys. And unfortunately, that has been to their downfall. So for me, next year, Cavan will I think they will make the top half of the table, but I don't see them getting promoted.
Yeah, because I was at the Tyrone game the other night, and we were obviously without the service of Geroid McKiernan at the minute, Paddy Lynch, James Smith, and it kind of, the alarm bells rang to a degree, because obviously without them guys, we look pretty ordinary. I know this is a fairly good Tyrone team at the minute, but without them gentlemen, you're after kind of talking about Kevin, it looks like a bit of a struggle, so you definitely will need to keep them boys fit. But I do understand your point, obviously, with that bit of over-reliance on Geroid, because he seems to kick the bulk of our scores, and obviously Paddy Lynch kicks a lot of them too. But we'll be interested to see if we can make a push for promotion this year, because I think it will be quite difficult. Mr. Hurley.
Yeah, it's an interesting division, all right. I agree with Kev's point there, and probably it's the most interesting division out of all the 4. As for relegation, I'd have to agree with Kevin. I'd have Antrim relegated definitely. And the thing about Antrim as well, I noticed last year, even in the beginning, there didn't seem to be, a standout score. You talked about Geroid McKiernan with Cavan, Paddy Lynch at times, but with Antrim, there didn't seem to be that kind of a score, and that's probably going to catch up with them this season. Andy McAtee seems to be more of an attacking coach as well, which that'll leave gaps at the back. You see, with his Meath teams, they got absolutely pummeled by Dublin, and I think that'd be a recipe for disaster, really. And as for the other relegation side, I'm going to go with my Munster County, Tipperary. I don't know about this project. David Power's a good coach. Conor Sweeney's a good forward. Sean O'Connor's a very good forward. I've seen with Clonmel Commercials. But with Tipperary, there seems to be a historic result, like the game against Cork, and then they struggle against I don't know who. I think Longford relegated them a few seasons ago, and you didn't know where it was coming. It seems to be Tipperary beat teams they shouldn't be beating, and teams they should be beating they lose. And I think that will probably be their downfall this season. Longford, very sticky place to go, and very good young players as well. Joseph Hagan, Jack Duggan, very good players. Mickey Quinn still knocking around. Darren Gallagher. So I think Longford will stay up as well. They're kind of that team.
Paddy Christie as well, yeah.
Paddy Christie, yeah. Very good organiser. So yeah, I think they'll probably stay up. Offaly's quite an interesting one. Offaly do have young good players, and they nearly stayed up in Division 2 last year if it wasn't for Cian Kiley saving Cork's skin last season. But I looked at an article recently. It said Johnny Maloney is out of the panel this year. He's going up and down to Galway to work, and he just can't have that commitment. And in my opinion, Johnny Maloney was Offaly's best player last season at centre back. So he's going to be a big loss to them. Noel McNamee, Liam Curran said he's about 90% sure he's not going to play this season.
Oh,
that's
not
what
okay.
So that's going to be a huge loss to them. Again, we talk about experience in the dressing room, and I think Offaly will probably miss out on promotion because of that reason. Like Jay Maloney and Noel McNamee, they're two huge losses. Fermanagh's a bit of a strange one. I find like they've good young players like Josh.
No Quigley, no Parity. No Quigley, no Parity. The best times.
Like he's a very good player, Quigley, but the other players through it for Fermanagh. Josh Lark-Wellis, who the Enniskillen Games guy, Conor Love, was hitting points for fun the club championship. You'd think that these players would be stepping up for now, but Quigley, that's going to be a huge loss to be missing for this league campaign. So then it leaves.
Oh, is Quigley missing? Is he?
I don't know. Like
I don't think so. I mean,
I think he's in. I think he's in.
But even if he is, mate, I think Matthew. Sorry, not to cut across what your speed, Matthew. I think you make a good point about Young Love and Largo Ellis. They're two very, very capable footballers, and maybe now is the time for them to step up to the mark.
Absolutely is, and like the top three, then I think it's going to be the top three there. Before the season with Down, before the McKenna Cup and all that, I always said Down could even go down to Division 4. Like it was absolutely terrible stuff last season. I seen them against Cork. They just didn't look a team last season under McCartan. Like what was going on in the dressing room, I don't know. But like Laverty coming in, it seems to be a happy camp now. They got close to Derry the weekend. They look a very good, very serious team. Cavan, it's going to be a difficult. Like they have good players. I think Martin Riley's a very good player. Garrett McKiernan, Paddy Lynch, if fit, I think is an outstanding forward. Ray McGalligan, in my opinion, is one of the best keepers in the country. Jason McLaughlin in the full backline, Paulie Faulkner. Very good players around the field. And obviously Mickey Graham as coach. You would think, looking at all them, Cavan would be dense on sorts. Westmeath as well. Like you talked about previously, Kev, about John Heslin being the main guy for Westmeath. Like I've known his Ron O'Toole over the last few weeks. He scored 4 points from play against Wexford in the O'Byrne Cup. He was undoubtedly player of the year of the Tattoo Cup last season. He was excellent in that competition. I just think Westmeath, like they have more players than anybody else in Division 3 all over the field, and I'd probably say Westmeath will top the league. I just think they're way too strong for the likes of Fermanagh, Offaly anyway. And then it's between the two Ulster counties of Cavan and Down. Like it's a very difficult one to call. But if you're judging it by form for McKenna Cup, if you're looking back towards that, you'd have to back Down. Like they haven't lost a game in the McKenna Cup for a reason. They're on form. Conor Laverty seems to be getting a tune out of the players. And I think it'd probably be at the end of the season, it'd be Westmeath and Down to get promoted. It's funny,
Matthew, you were saying about Division 4 and Sligo being further down the line than other teams. And I suppose my rationale is sort of turned around, and when I think Down, the one thing that Down and Offaly have is they have a very good base to start from. Remember, Laverty was 2 years in with the 20s, so he knows nearly every kid in Down that's coming through. He's an absolutely football fanatic, so he knows probably every kid in Down from under 12 right up through to senior. He knows every one of them. He knows anybody that's about it. And, we're already seeing the quick transition. We're already seeing, as Matthew said, the buy-in from players, and that's turned into performances. Okay, it didn't quite work out for him on Sunday against Derry. But you know what? They needed a real decent starting base this year because, as Matthew rightly says, they could have fell through the trapdoor. But I think he steadied the ship. He'll come in there. Newry will be a really hard place to pick up points next year. In the coming weeks in the league. And that's why I just think them and Offaly. I think they have a good young base to work from. Young, enthusiastic lads who, will buy into it. Might take Liam Kearns a wee bit longer than Conor Laverty to get a tune out of the guys in Offaly. My other big problem with Westmeath and Cavan is my big issue is just they're over Allianz and too few guys. I take on board Matthew's excellent point about Ron O'Toole, who was fantastic, especially in the final last year. But again, if you're going to Newry, and you're looking to win a severe, local derby for Cavan, you're going to have to look more past Gerard McKiernan and Paddy Lynch, maybe Martin Riley coming off the bench. And the same with Westmeath, Westmeath struggled a wee bit last year, a couple of times to go away from home with, as I say, Hassan taking on the bulk of the scores. This was just in the league, not in the Tailteann Cup. So it'll be interesting to see how in particular, them four teams for me, the top end of that division, the Cavan, the Westmeath, the Down and Offaly start the league. And then, unfortunately, I haven't got it in front of me, but I think fixtures are a big thing. We talked about Division 4. If Wicklow have 4 games at home, I mean, it's not a bloody easy place to go to, Auckland. You'd be expecting Wicklow to take full points in Division 4 from there. If you've got a team like Westmeath, you're going down to Cusick Park, you're very unlikely to take points from them at home, so they'll be the things how the even up the league in terms of how many home fixtures you have.
Yeah, and we've Westmeath away from home for the first game, and I was only saying to Johnny Murphy earlier on, our fellow pundit, that no county would nearly like to start their league campaign. The Dubs would like it, Kerry would like it, Tyrone would like it. It is definitely a difficult place to start, but look, Mickey Graham is planning for it already, no doubt. And I suppose that's we can move on to Division 2, where you have Limerick, Cork, Meath, Louth, Clare, Derry, Kildare, and the one and only Dublin, for the first time in I don't know how long, lads, being in Division 2 football. So that'll be eye-opening stuff for them. Matthew, what are we thinking for Division 2 this year?
Yeah, geez, the enigma of Cork football. It's we're in Division 2 again. Look, it's kind of our home division at the moment, but yeah, I just hope that we won't fight relegation this season. With the likes of Limerick and Clare and Louth, we realistically should be beating those types of teams. No disrespect to them. Like Louth, I know they've had a good start in the O'Byrne Cup. They're in the O'Byrne Cup inviting at the weekend. I just looked at Louth last season in Páirc Uí Chaoimh, and I just thought, once they sat back too much. With the quality of players they have, Kieran Byrne, Conor Grimes, Sam Mulroy, they have excellent players, and I don't know why. Their plan initially was against a Cork team that were pretty much struggling over the last few years defensively, especially. Why would you sit back, And they have to take these games by the scruff of the neck. And there was a situation where Cork were 2 points up going to the last 10 minutes. And then the Louth players were questioning, what now? What do we do? And they end up pushing up with 5 minutes to go. Cork exploited the gaps in defence and scored 2 goals. I just think Louth will struggle for that reason. I just think, they have to go and attack teams more if they have any chance of staying up. I think this is a bold prediction now, but I think Meath could be in huge trouble this year. I look at their players. I just think, I know Colm O'Rourke's come in as manager. I just think Colm O'Rourke is a good motivator, and he's as passionate Meath man as anybody. But I just look at the Meath players on the team: Harry Hogan, Jordan Morris, Donald Keoghan. They're probably the only 3 that I think they're top class players in the whole country. The rest of them, I just don't rate this Meath team. I don't know what it is about them. Even against Clare last season, Clare probably should have beat them by more in that qualifier game. So I think Meath could really struggle. Clare, Colm Collins again for 10th season. Yeah, they're going to stay up. They always do. There's always a team that everybody says will go down that'll be Clare. They always manage to stay up. And that's a credit to Colm Collins and his management team. He's an incredible coach, and Clare will stay up again. Limerick is a quite interesting one. Ray Dempsey in charge there now. I think he's taking on the right team. If he took on Mayo, I think he could just easily struggle, but he's taking on a Limerick team that Billy Lee's left in a good state. They're an absolutely incredible side at the moment. They've good strength all over the field. They're almost like a Munster team, in my opinion. Look at the strength of them. I just think the thing that will lack for Limerick is probably the killer instinct in front of goal. Josh Ryan apparently is going to be missing this year. Danny Neville, who I was really impressed with 2 years ago, is now out of the panel. So I think Limerick could struggle. And then I think you look at the top 4 then. I think Derry and Dublin will easily go up. I know that's a boring prediction for everybody, but Dublin, they shouldn't really be in this division, should they? They're 6-time All-Ireland champions in a row for a reason. There's still Paul Mannion and Jack McCaffrey to come back in. They're going to be ready for road. I think Dublin could easily top this. Derry, Like there was how Derry didn't go up last year, I don't know. Like when you look at the talents they possessed, I think they had 11 points overall in the whole of the Division 2 campaign. Still didn't go up. They were all out of the semi-finalists last year. They still have players hanging around. Rory Gallagher's seeming to get a tune out of them. Then I'd probably have to say Kildare, probably third or fourth, Cork in the other place. And it's going to be a very tough division, but I think Dublin and Derry should go up, and down, I'm going to say Louth and Meath to get relegated.
Great stuff, great stuff. And for anyone just joining us, Michael McMullen from the Gaelic Life has just joined us. So Michael, how are you?
Not too bad. Just coming from Glenn's press evening there, so sorry for being late.
No worries. It's great to have you on board. How did the press evening go?
Very good, very efficient, and I suppose excitement and nerves. Looking forward to the big day, but as Kevin knows too well, it's a massive day for any club, so I'm sure they're buzzing.
Good stuff. Did you ever come across this man in your journey, Michael McMullen?
Yes, indeed. Accent writer actually for the Gaelic Life, and I'm glad he's at Glenn's press tonight. I'll probably be reading him during the week, so it'll be interesting to read what's happening up there with Malachy O'Rourke, and maybe he'll just finish off with Glenn this year, and we'll see him back into county management next year, possibly somewhere. So that's a really interesting story that's happening up there, and I think as well, you know, when we talk about a good county team, and sorry, we were just chatting about this earlier. We're chatting about Antrim and you know, my fear for the season and that don't have strength and depth. When you look at a county like Derry, I think it's now, just keep me right, 5 or 6 Ulster Club winners over the last, you know, 2 decades, in terms of, you know, you got your Blahys, you got your Dungivens, you've had your Loops, obviously your Ballinderries, your Schlockneils, your Lavies, and now your Glens, you know, and I'm sorry, Balliern as well, won it back in the day. So, you know, it's incredible the strength and depth there. And when club football is going well in a county, you know, you just look at how that's transferred into the pick that Rory Gallagher has now. And I suppose we're talking about Division 2. I think Matthew sort of hit it on the nail on the head. For me, there's 3 teams at the top end of this league and 5 teams that will scrap. And, you know, having previously experienced this league with Antrim back in 2011 or 2012, we got 2 points. We beat Meath, and we were beat by a point by Laois and by 2 points by somebody else. And there's fine margins in the middle of that league, if you know what I mean. And Clare seem to be coming out all the time on top of them fine margin games, you know, against the Meaths of this world, against the Corks of this world. And unfortunately, Matthew, from your point of view, in my opinion, Cork, this is a standstill year for them. They've been very, very inconsistent. You know, again, they've been the bookmaker's dream. People think Cork down there at home, you know, they'll get a win. They haven't been that way. They're very unpredictable over the last couple of years. Not really a game plan. You know, we didn't know who was actually playing or not. He had a bit of a problem. He was fiddling about with a goalkeeper for a while. It's a new management. It's a new year. It's a professional background. You know, not only have you got Kevin Walsh in there, but Rob Heffernan's come in there as well. Obviously, you know, James Lottery, and James will be a very good in terms of fitness with the guys as well down there. So I expect a very fit and different Cork this year, and one that possibly, when I talk about them dog-eat-dog matches towards the bottom 5 in that league, that they'll come out on top. Obviously, you know, the likes of Hurley up top is extremely important to them. Sean Powder is another player who's really extremely important to them. I do agree with you that Limerick have a new manager and everything was sailing smoothly for Billy Lee. And some people might say Billy Lee got out at the right time, that they'd plateaued and Ray Dempsey's come in. I think this will be an extremely difficult league for them. They're a very physical team, Limerick, and that may help them, but I fear for them. I do fear for Louth, and I certainly fear for Meath. Meath, even at the start of this year in O'Byrne Cup, you know, I think it was the first half performance. Guys, keep me right. Was it against Laois or against somebody who was really, really poor? So, you know, Colin O'Rourke's got his work cut out there, but I certainly see that. I think that's Dublin and Derry. You know, John, last year I got this wrong. I said that Derry would win that division. And I suppose the game in Roscommon, that last minute sort of point, cost them that. And obviously the game at home to Galway, where they were just terrible at the back. So on Derry, like, so for me, Derry will have learned a lot from last year. They've brought in Ronan Gallagher in terms of goalkeeping area, and I think that's quite important. I think I spoke to you last year about their goalkeeper maybe being an issue to them, but certainly I think Rory Gallagher have looked at a few things last year, and it's imperative for this Derry team to move forward. They certainly need Division 1 football, and they're going to get 2 or 3 quality games in this league, but I expect them to come runners up to Dublin team who, as rightly articulated by Matthew earlier on, I can't see Dublin having any problems with anybody here. Going down, probably Limerick. Yeah, and I'll go for the bold one. Limerick and Meath.
Oh, there we go. There we go. I suppose, Mikey, kind of furthering on from Kevin's point there, what are we thinking for Division 2 this year?
I haven't really had time to think much about the county scene at the minute, but what I do know is the Dubs are down. The Dubs are down and very much favourites. It's hard to disagree with anything there. I know from a Derry point of view, I think we're going to need to have 8 points in the bag by the time the Dubs come to Celtic Park, because as Kevin highlighted there, Derry was going really, really well until that moment when Shane McGuigan gets sent off. Probably the whole disjointed nature of what happened, he probably would have scored the point, the free to win the game, and Derry just never really recovered. Then the Galway thing then speaks for itself, getting stuffed. So, but Derry, as Rory said after the Down game yesterday, he says he didn't do any training on the pitch until the start of the McKenna Cup. And the thing I've liked about them in both games so far, they came back from 6 points down against Tyrone to get a draw. 4 points down yesterday. Now, I know it's only the McKenna Cup and all that there, and it is a pre-season competition, and you have to always remember that, but it's hard to beat a team that is coming back and coming back. Ronan Gallagher's in. He's taking the goalkeeping coaches. Lynch was brilliant yesterday. He made an unbelievable save at the first penalty kick of the shootout. Got down really low. He'd been criticised for not being mobile enough. Rory actually said in his interview that he says Big Lynchy's got himself trimmed down a bit, whatever. But I noticed from watching him last year, I thought he had too much unfair criticism, because I thought he was doing a role that he maybe wasn't comfortable with. So maybe the discussion over the winter is maybe more defined about when you come out and when you don't. But does it come down to Derry and Kildare for second place? It probably does. And it's a tricky second season for Derry, because they had such an unbelievable year last year, and they had so much energy about them and everything that they did. And it's the second season syndrome in terms of promotion, but I back them. I back them to go up. But I agree with most of the people I've been chatting to, is you need to be getting 8 points before the Dubs come to town. Easier said than done, of course, but that's the big picture.
Yeah, no, you're right, Michael. I suppose looking into Division 2, and obviously teams will try to get scalps up Dublin, but realistically, like, they'll be all guns blazing probably from minute one. So I suppose, is there going to be any upsets, or will it probably go as planned?
Well, the other thing, John, and everybody here will agree, Derry are now the hunted.
Yeah.
Like Down are where Derry was a few years ago, a new management team coming in, loads of enthusiasm, and whenever you're coming in and the favourites come to town, you're thinking, right, let's get a cut at these boys. Because look at Tyrone last year in Healy Park in the championship. Like, Tyrone were all Ireland champions. And I felt from day one that Derry would beat them, because they would be well set up and hungry as hell. And even yesterday, like, Conor Rafferty had Down really, really G'd up. Like, Barry O'Hagan was wrestling with Shane McGuigan before the ball was thrown in. So every team that plays Derry in Division 2 will be thinking, Ulster champions, we need to get something out of this game. Let's see where we are. So it's how Derry handle being hunted. And I think that's, Kevin will know Rory Gallagher inside out from playing along with him. He seems to be really enthused by something like that. He would love that challenge of being hunted and seeing, can he go up a level. And I tipped him to do so.
Absolutely. I think that one thing about Gallagher, and I'll say this, Galway got a bit lucky last year beating them. I had tipped Derry for the semi-final. I just think Gallagher's tactics are absolutely brilliant at times. But I'm just going to err on the side of caution and saying this. I don't think there's many better teams defensively than Derry in the country at the minute. They've got great one-on-one markers. You know, as a unit, they're brilliant. You know, Paul Cassidy, as I said to you before, he doesn't even look like a footballer, but the amount of work that man gets through from wing forward. I just want to see Derry maybe this year be a wee bit more expansive going up top. You know, they controlled that game for a long time against Galway last year, and then maybe just went back into their box too much. And then, you know, Galway they got a lucky break, and the next thing is, you know, they overran Derry a wee bit. I think Derry have players that can express themselves a wee bit more, and I maybe want to see that. But tactically, there's not going to be many managers that get one over on Rory Gallagher, and he'll embrace this year. And I have no doubts, even if they have a quick exit or whatever else in Ulster, we all know that the championship's changed now. You know, I would foresee Derry getting a great run this year again, and he'll embrace it all the time. And I'm glad he's changed it up. And you know, last thing I'll say on this, when you're talking about the keeper like Lynch, if there was ever a perfect man to play that position for Derry, he's about 15 years too late. It would have been Conleth Gilligan. Imagine him between the sticks playing that role.
He was great at it.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah, and Division 1, finally, big division here. Kerry, Armagh, Galway, Mayo, Tyrone, Donegal, Monaghan and Roscommon. So, I suppose they're the favourites to win this division, aren't they?
Yeah, Michael, what do you think?
What's that? Sorry, I missed that.
Yeah, just on Division 1, what are we thinking?
It's a survival thing with Division 1, because how many teams in Division 1 actively really want to win it? You know, at the end of the day, it's like, look, it was a couple of years ago there wasn't even a final played. You know, so it's definitely survival at the bottom. And you know, if you look at the likes of, just look at Donegal, for example, like they're without Murphy, and that's going to be a massive campaign for them, as with a new manager in, and also for Monaghan, new manager going in, and Monaghan the last year was like fairy tale stuff. That's the thing about the league, an 8-team league, and the last day in Clonus, and Jack McCarron tearing it up. Like that's just stuff of dreams, really. That's what you want in a league. But you suppose you're looking at the two Ulster teams up there that are like they're going to struggle, but will they get relegated? Who knows? Because there's so much at stake that we can't really talk about right now. Like, what do we really know about anybody at the minute? We know Donegal, sure, they've chopped and changed with the team in the McKenna Cup, and Dublin are gone, so Kerry as champions will be looking to go. Then Galway will be looking to push on. You know, like their club scene's going well. Like, they weren't that far away from winning the All-Ireland. You know, let's face it. Like, Kerry were favourites and won it, but like Galway aren't that far away. So does Padraig Joyce sit down and say, right, we're going to go for this league? Maybe that's something they need to do, is go and try and get in the top 2 or 3 teams in the top division to give themselves a championship to build from. But the 8-team leagues, whether it's club level, county level, they are so cutthroat. Two defeats and all of a sudden the pressure's on. You know, supporters are asking questions, players are worried, managers are worried. You know, so I'm not too sure the fixtures. Actually, I think Donegal might have Kerry first. I'm not too sure. I haven't done any county research at all because I've been sort of bogged down in club this past wee while. But you know, Paddy Carr, Paddy Bradley, and Aidan Rourke in there, and they will be looking to get results early. Kerry's not an easy one. Not an easy one by any matter of means. And I don't know. It's hard to get excited about the fact that, you know, the league final a couple of years has not been played for. I think it's got the stage where the top team definitely needs to just win the league outright. You know, that's just the way it always needs to be, I think. But at the bottom, like, look at the drama. You know, look at last season. Maybe the big talking point of the league at the minute, lads, is can we get a last day coverage worthy of the league's last day?
Yeah.
Because we don't really know enough about it at the minute to see who's going to be in it. But like last year, all the games were on at the same time. I think the best idea, I'm not trying to get away from Division 1 here, but have the Division 3 and Division 1 finals on a Sunday and the Division 2 and Division 4 final rounds of games on the Saturday, and try and spread that out, because it's box office. Like last year was box office in terms of who goes down. So that's where it needs to go in terms of organisation, so the media can jump onto it. But it's going to be tough to stay up. Like, look at Tyrone last year, all Ireland champions, and just about stayed up. With Kerry, they were sure, was there 4 or 5 teams could have been relegated in the last day. It was crazy stuff.
Absolutely. I suppose Kevy taking up on Michael's points there.
Yeah, no, lots of relevant points. I'll come back to his more than excellent point on organisation, which I've been harping on about for a long time. But for me, this league is quite clear to me that there is 5 top teams, 3 bottom teams. And I'll state from the outset, I fear for Donegal, I fear for Monaghan, and I fear for Roscommon. I really do. Change of management up in Donegal. Look, best of luck to Paddy Carr and Aidan O'Rourke and Paddy Bradley. I don't know if they were the first choice up there, and I don't know if a lot of people's nose have been put out of joint. Murphy stepping away, yes, he had a lot of miles on the clock, but it just seemed a wee bit premature to me. We seen McBurty got in as captain.
Yeah,
no doubts they've good players and they've a good pick of players, good pool of players, but the way they've started this year already, and Kerry coming to town first day out, Mickey was saying there about 1 or 2 defeats in a row, and the next thing is you're facing relegation, and I just fear for Donegal that way. Monaghan I feared for a couple of seasons now. Last year they sort of got out of jail. Jack McCarn's brilliance and wizardry got them out of jail. Excuse me. But, they've lost a couple of experienced players. Obviously, Drew Riley, Colin Walsh have stepped back. Is there people coming in to replace them? I don't really know that are fit for Division 1. They've always been a good team at home in Division 1 and always really suffered away from home. Last year, they got turned over a couple of times at home, and I just fear for them this year. Roscommon, look, they're forever the yo-yo team in the GAA, up for a season or 2 seasons and back down again. The Hyde's never an easy place to go, but I don't see them getting a lot of points. And I think between them 3, it's going to be whoever beats each other then will basically stay up. Then we come into the top 5, and there's so many different narratives here. Tyrone, they are going to be the story of my season anyway. Let's see how this Tyrone team, they were absolutely rotten last year. Rotten compared to what they were the year before. It was like chalk and cheese, light and day. So what Tyrone are we going to see this season? So many unanswered questions from them. Personally, I expect them to come back with absolute, with an absolute voomph.
The look. Like I was watching the other night, Kevin. The look sharp.
The rest would have done them well. I think they've changed up the S&C in the back room a wee bit as well. They've new players to come in. Obviously, if Canavan the younger comes in as well, might help them out. 1 or 2 new players into the scene might help them. Last year, obviously, there was a couple of defections away from the squad, and that sort of upset things at the start. Obviously, they've lost Conor McKenna, which will be a big enough loss for them up front.
We've lost Conor McKenna too.
They're going to be the big hit this season. Everybody's going to be looking at them, and I would not at all be surprised if they go out in the first 3 or 4 games. They're playing a Mayo away from home. They want to make a statement very, very early on. So they're a big sort of unknown this year. Obviously, Mayo in the transition they've had, not only a manager but the turnover of players. Obviously, the big news being Lee Keegan, but sort of we're seeing that great Mayo side of the last 5 or 6 years slowly drift away, and a new Mayo coming forward. That's going to take time under Kevin McStay. Yes, early signs are good in the Connacht League, but I think that project will take time. But certainly, I think they'll have enough to stay in Division 1. Galway, I'll be interested to see how they kick on in year 2. In Padraig Joyce's, I think it's his 3rd year, but after how well they've done last year, for me, Kerry are the standout team in the league. But then again, Michael rightly said about Derry, right across the board, Kerry are going to be the one that everybody targets. They're going to want to scalp. So, they're going to have to up their game too. So I think there's 5 teams at the top end of that league. Armagh, sorry, is the other one I didn't speak about. I think Armagh have now built themselves into a good team. There's a good mixture of youth and experience in there. McKinney's been on board a long way. The guys are buying into what he's done. We've seen where they went last year. They want to build on that. And I think they're a good, strong Division 1 team. I can't see them really being involved in a relegation fight. So them 5 teams, with Kerry obviously being the standout at the top, are for me, when we come to analyse Division 1, that's where things are at. Last point I'll make is Michael makes a point there about our marketing. I've said this time and time again, I'm sick of it. They haven't a clue what they're doing. Right? They haven't a clue. Right across the weekend, when now I see Premiership football in England, and yes, we're an amateur organisation, and it's like comparing apples and pears in a way, but it's nearly 7 nights a week. It's nearly something on every night. When we need to look about, can we have a local derby on a Friday night in the league? Is that possible? If not, that's fine. Can we do games on Saturday at 2, 4 and 6, and then another game on the Sunday at say 1:15, 3:30 every week, not just for the last weekend of the league. So us sitting down for a cup of tea at home, that maybe our counties away down the other end of the country can sit and watch it. We can stream games now. Yes, there's pay-per-view channels, and we've got RTE and TT-Car in that can maybe take a game each. So, and there's games where there's football matches on and hurling matches on in that particular weekend. How do we look at them? How do we get the maximum for our sponsors? How do we market our game much, much better? And when it comes to maybe the first weekend and the last weekend of the league, when it will start with a big burst and a big crescendo, and then we stop with a massive programme, as we say, we pick out the big games in the last weekend of the league. Now, the last point I'm making this is, I read just in researching coming on tonight, that the ticket prices have gone up because Croke Park say that their pricing for what they spend on the league has gone up. They were spending something like 1.3 million last year in the league. What for? Fireworks at Croke Park for the finals? I don't know what they were spending this bloody money on, because they've got the trophies. Okay, they have to buy medals and whatever else. So I'd like to know what they're spending this money on, because they have their sponsors, they have their television partners. Everything is in place for them to make a go of this, and they're just sitting on their ass not doing it properly. So Megan makes a really, really good point there. Not only about, I would say, not only about the end of the league, but about the start of the league. We need to look at this as an overall package.
Just on the money thing, it's something I've always said. The biggest worry is of attendances, poor attendances at games, right? And surely a player wants to play in front of a packed house. Do you need to do some sort of a survey to find out why people aren't going to the games? Is it the style of play? Is it the fact that it's too expensive? Has the level of interest gone in certain areas? But if cost is an issue, and is it something as simple as you cut the prices in half and double the attendance? I don't know, maybe that's not a factor. Like if you say, for example, it's €9 and do twice as many people go, if that's an option that people feel is right, I think it would be better. Like if the people who are not going to games are prepared to pay €10, I don't know. It has to be worth exploring, because you need people in, because if you ask any player, do they want to play in front of a packed house, they're going to say yes. They have to. They simply have to. Even those couple in the McKenna Cup game, that guy's in the McKenna Cup game yesterday in Uri, and it was absolutely bouncing. So maybe it is the pricing thing you need to look at. And I know that people say, well, it costs you X amount of money to go and watch Ulster Rugby or Linfield or Shamrock Rovers or wherever the team happens to be, but GA is amateur. So maybe it's a case of get the pricing structure right and ask the members to say, what do you think is acceptable? Because probably what you find is the people who make the, and I'm probably not one to talk because I don't have to pay in the games because I've got a press card, but a lot of people who make the prices don't pay. So maybe they need to ask their membership more, and my motivation for chipping into that conversation is I just think you need to get more people into grounds by whatever shape or form. Find out why people aren't coming. Go and ask clubs, ask counties, why are people not coming, and make an effort of trying to get it up. The attendance is up. So definitely very important point.
Absolutely, lads. I suppose, Mr. Hurley, your thoughts on Division 1?
Yeah, I suppose first of all, before I get into Division 1, I'd have to take up on the points of Kevin and Mike, like excellent points about GA and its ticketing as well, and something I like to add as well. The GA still have a system where you have to pay online for tickets rather than go down to the game and get a ticket there. You know, like even back in the mid 2010s, you could just go down to games and then get a ticket, and if you feel like going to a game, grand. And you have to remember as well, there is elderly around the country that don't have Wi-Fi. They don't have access to tickets, you know?
Yeah.
So why GA still have this system in place? COVID is done now, you know? I don't know why they have this system in place, and you were talking about why the attendance has gone down. That's particularly one reason, in my opinion, anyway. I think it's pretty bad anyway. But yeah, as for Division 1, yeah, I think there is the argument who would want to win this division. Like the All-Irelands is probably the main thing, the provincial championships is the main thing, and I definitely agree with Kev there. Donegal are in real trouble. Like not only Michael Murphy leaving, Neil McGee is another huge loss in the full back line, and even in the not so much in the full back line because he didn't have the capabilities to start anymore. But like in the dressing room, we talked about the dressing room earlier on in the chat as well, and yeah, he's an integral part, same as Murphy, and you have to question where are the leaders there. I know Paddy McBrear has come in as captain, he's an excellent footballer, but there's question, does he have the leadership abilities to take on the captaincy role? You know, that's a big role there. Roscommon, they're kind of a yo-yo team, in my opinion. Like they do well in Division 2, then they go back down again. I think they've only been in they've only spent 2 years in Division 1 once over the last few seasons, and that's not good enough for the amount of quality Roscommon have. Monaghan, a lot of experienced players are gone there as well. Vinnie Corey, you'd have to question, does he have the capabilities to take on this management role? Tyrone's going to be very interesting. Like Conor McKenna has left, a big loss for them. Yeah, but they do have excellent players coming through the ranks, like Paul Donaghy, for example, was excellent. Cannon Button had left the panel, and you have to question why have they left, you know, and that's a big question that Logan and Brian have to answer this season. This is going to be a big season for Tyrone. For Mayo, look, it's going to be an interesting one. I think they have the right appointment in Kevin McStay. I think he's probably the best they could have got. In terms of players, like even look at the Sigurdsson Cup, very few were involved with the Mayo County team. And that's a big worry for Kevin McStay. And it probably shows the younger players aren't coming through as frequently as previous years. So that's a big thing for Mayo. Honestly, I think Kerry should win the league easy enough. Challenged closely by Galway and Armagh. Like Armagh would be very interesting this year. They've probably one of the most exciting teams in the country. Galway, very interesting. See how they perform in their second year at the top. So, yeah, I suppose it'll probably be them three at the top, and then Mayo and Tyrone around the middle, and then the bottom three to fight out who will go down. And ultimately, I'd say it'll be Donegal and probably Roscommon to get relegated, I'd say.
All to play for, lads, all to play for. And I suppose, kind of, Matthew, kind of taking up on all your points there, what kind of players are we looking forward to watching in Division 1?
Yeah, like I suppose with Kerry, you look at Rory Murphy at centre forward. Like you'd have to say that Kerry will play a lot more younger players this time around, like they did in the McGrath Cup. It probably backfired against Cork, losing by 12 points. But look, they'll probably bring in the likes of Cliffords and all that once they get into week 3, week 4 of the league, and once they're safe and all that, and they start to load the young players in. Like Paul O'Shea is going to be an interesting one. Paul Walsh, will they integrate them into the team? That's going to be very interesting. Armagh will probably go around about the same team as last year. Mayo, you would think Cuba Callahan might be a good player coming through the ranks there. David McBride might start in the team. Rory Byrne in goal. I suppose Monaghan actually have good young players like David Garland in the Sigurdsson Cup. I've really impressed with him. Aaron Mulligan didn't probably have his best year last year. He had his good year in 2021. Will he come back into form? We'll have to see about that. Like Donegal, you'd have to say they're in a bit of a transition period, so they'll bring in a lot more younger players as well. Roscommon, will they bring in Darragh Craig? He's performed for the Sigerson Cup team in UCD over the last 2 seasons. Will he come into the senior panel this season? Like, he'll be an interesting one, definitely to watch. So, yeah, there'll be a lot of young players in Division 1. And, yeah, especially for Armagh, Galway and Kerry, I think, because I think those 3 teams are safe. And I think they'll probably use the younger players to try and get a feel of what senior to county football is all about.
There we go, lads. And what about yourself, Kevy? Players to look out for this year?
Funny, I'm not concentrating on Division 1 because Matthew's named a couple of players. Obviously, Craig at Roscommon does look particularly good over the last couple of years, and he will be a big part of theirs. But looking back down the leagues, just reading the reports, and Michael will be able to tell me this better. Anthony Tuhill's young boy is somebody that is always interested in me. Where's he going? And he seems to have got a run on Sunday. And really it's about players coming in to make the difference. It's very hard to break into an inter-county setup. So when a guy comes in, is he going to make the difference? Is he going to make that transition year? Tyrone, again, 2 or 3 players in Tyrone are going to make that transition. You know, we have talked about Canavan before, Canavan Jr. Will he come in? What's going to go on there? Are they going to bring in Paul from Dungannon? Is he going to get another run? Where he didn't really get a go a couple of years ago. Down have particularly 5 or 6 young players. Liam Kerr's been about the panel for a couple of years, but a really interesting player. Acceleration beyond belief. Good score getter, young Burn fella. Really, really good player. You've got young Murdoch there who's playing for them as well. He's playing the Sigerson at the minute for Jordanstown, who's a really, really good player. So Down are going to be a very, very young panel. And you're gonna get to see a couple of these over the next couple of years. So really interested to see them. Interested to see if anybody can break into the Armagh team. I think that's quite. I think Matthew makes a good point. Really settled team. I think Geezer knows roughly that his strongest 1920 there. Be really interesting to see. Like Soupy Campbell stood up really well last year. Obviously we know about Rain. Young McQuillan, can he make the breakthrough in there? Obviously with Jardy Burns is in there, steady kid. So it'll be really interesting to see if Armagh change up very little, but really Down, Derry, Tyrone for me. Them, if we look across 1, 2, and 3, them 3 counties in particular, I'll be looking at 1 or 2 players to see if they can make the breakthrough and make that difference, because Tyrone obviously need new injection after what happened last year, especially up front. The huge problems, and when you talk that Mark Bradley walked away from the panel. And that other lads didn't get maybe the chance that others think they deserved. And it'll be interesting to see what they do there. As I say, with Derry, young Tohill will be interesting to watch, and then with Down, there's 5 or 6 lads there in Down who, really impressed at under 20. A couple of cool lads, as I say, young Liam Kerr and Murdoch from Burn, who'll be really interesting to watch. And then from young county, you've got as I said, I mentioned to you earlier, the 2 Finnegan brothers, 2 big lads. I think both of them are in Ulster Rugby Academy at one stage. So 2 big physical lads and Pat Shivers as well coming through there. So, further on down the leagues, I'd be looking more than, the establishment at Division 1, because I think it's harder to break into a Division 1 team in your first or second year.
What about yourself, Michael?
I was at a Ryan Cup quarter final up in Jordanstown earlier on in the year, and UCD beat Jordanstown, or Ulster University as it's called now. Tommy Joe would be having a canary now, we're not calling it the right name, but Conor Cush was in absolutely deadly form for Ulster, and Craig at the other end, and maybe to a lesser extent Garland, but those 2 players were excellent. I was saying to John Devlin, who happened to ask who he was, well, he says that was Craig. So I'm looking forward to see who he does, because obviously that's university level. I was watching Carrigan's game with Nath Connell. I thought Sean O'Neill from Carrigan was brilliant. I'm not sure what age he is. I think he's in around that 18-19 bracket. He's a name I'm going to be looking out for. I'm not sure he's in the county panel, but one of the best players they had was Kevin McShane at full back. He was very good. I'm not sure if he's in the county mix, but Sean O'Neill definitely looked the part. He was very good on the ball, involved in a lot of attacks. Obviously, from watching my column, Peter Cook is the thing for Galway in Division 1. He had been working out of the country in America, and I think he's got some sort of arrangement where he's working from home in the evenings, because of the time difference. Can PJ get him signed up to commit? There's also a lad, James McLaughlin. I think he was the minor player of the year 2019, like the Rising Star Electric Ireland. But he was out injured, and he was too. I think the All Ireland semi-final Glen came too soon for him. Is he somebody else that Padraig Joyce is going to bring in? Because Galway at that stage where they're not far away, but they can't sit still. So the two McCullen lads, are they going to push on? Is Conor O'Donnell the man to step up whenever Michael Murphy's gone? Is that somebody different for Donegal? He scored the majority of his stuff from play last year for them. And then going into my own county, Derry, Niall Toner was man of the match. I don't know how he didn't get man of the match yesterday. 5 points. He looks like a player who wants to be a starter and to really tear it up. Like Rory has said that he nearly knows 12 or 13 of his team at this stage. So does Toner take Derry to another level in terms of scoring? And also, finally, for me, Owen McAvoy was the captain of St Mary's Maher Phelps McCrory team last year. He's marked Pat Havern yesterday, Matty Donnelly the week before, and he also started against Fermanagh. Is it because Brendan Rodgers is now playing midfield with Conor Glass, tied up with the club, obviously? So, and Rory did say in his interview yesterday that if McAvoy had been fit last year, he picked up an injury in the McCrory. If he had been fit last year, he would have put him in, because he's not scared to put in young fellas. So I'm wondering, is he realistically going to push into the Derry team? Because, as Kevin said, Derry's defence has always been very, very good in terms of man-to-man markers. So that's maybe a long-term thing there. You were chatting about Anton Toval. I think Anton's biggest problem is that he just missed so much football. He went to Australia and he hadn't played an awful lot of football before he left. And whenever he came home, he had played very little football for Swatra, because you know the way it works, you can't play for your club when you're with the county, and he fell between the two stools. Yesterday's game, he was played at full forward, and I think the 42nd minute was the first time a ball was kicked to him, and he won it, got bottled up, free thrown against him, and within a few minutes he was taken off. I think he's probably the sort of person that needs to get a good run at midfield, and maybe a good run of club football, because there's playing in Australia is one thing, but playing football is completely different. And the thing about inter-county level, you have to be on the money. You'll just be caught out, you'll be exploited if you're not at it. So and it's a point I've made on a few different podcasts. Derry's biggest problem is because they've got a really good setup at the minute, and Gallagher's got it perfect. But to go to the next level, they need the kick-out option at 10 and 12, because Lynch can deliver it. I'll go back to the Galway game last year. The point was changed at half-time, the one that was disallowed, and it was put back on. Galway get the first couple of scores of the second half from frees. And because they were from frees, Galway could get their press set up while the free taker was getting gathered up to take it. And out of Derry's first 3 kickouts, they were landed on top of Niall Toner. And I think it was John Daly and Sean Kelly won both of them, gobbled them up. So Derry didn't have that long option. And within 2 minutes, it's substitution on the Derry team. Emmett Bradley comes in, and Lynch landed the next 2 kickouts in Emmett Bradley, and he won them. But the problem was Derry were 7-4 down by that stage.
Yeah.
So that's what I would love to see. Obviously, support for Shane McGuigan, and hopefully Toner, Benny Hearn, Lachlan Murray can add to that. But it's the 10 and 12 long kick-out option that people would just love. I always remember Mickey C from Ballinderry saying that Endon Muldoon was a dream, because if you looked out and neither of the two midfielders caught a ball, Muldoon was standing at number 12 and he says, right, I'll get it to Enda, he'll get it. Patsy Bradley and Slant Neil, if you're ever stuck, I'll drive it down to Patsy, he'll get it. So that's where I think that Derry people are just crying out for something like that, because they were sort of brought up on a diet of big midfielders. And I know the game has changed a wee bit and there's not as many long kickouts, but you still need that option that changes it. you can only go short so many times. So for me, that's where I would love to see Derry, and all Derry's under 16, under 17 minor teams trying to develop the big man. Bring back the big man for me, but don't use them all the time. But at least have somebody where, as Mickey C did with Enda Muldoon, right? I'll land one on top of Enda here. So that's my wee Derry wish list.
Yeah, no, just a couple of points you made. Sean O'Neill, this guy you mentioned, I've seen a lot of conversation on different WhatsApp chats actually, and on different websites. He's not on the Antrim panel.
He's not. I think he's very good.
And there's people questioning why he's not. So you've hit the nail on the head there. Peter Cook is a guy I've seen before. He went away to America playing in universities. And you're talking about that big get-out guy. This guy's an athlete. He's a big, tall lad. He can catch ball in around wing forward for you. Very, very good player. And, you know, when you're talking about developing someone like that, if you remember when Kerry were under pressure in the middle of the park, they would bring Tommy Walsh out sometimes, or they would bring Kieran Donaghy out, maybe the wing half forward to plant the ball in there. So it's always a great tactics, maybe underutilized. But when you get a big guy in there who's that athletic, obviously route one is your two midfielders. You know, if you're not kicking the ball short or your two wing backs aren't free, then you're going straight down the middle of your two midfielders. But it's always great to have somebody there that can win you primary possession, and maybe it is underutilized and needs to be brought back now that the keepers do have a long kick out and which are very accurate.
Yeah, I agree with you there.
Good stuff, lads. Good stuff. Any more talking points? Are we happy enough? We look forward to the league, and I suppose that's basically it, lads. If you just want to discuss anything else, all good?
No, just good luck to Glen this weekend. It'd be interesting to see if Malik O'Rourke can get them over the line against Kilmacud. You know, two real different ends of the spectrum. One, a complete super club for the last 30 years. You know, population-wise massive, against a club that maybe Michael could rightly articulate better than me, that is sort of, it's been in the doldrums for a long time, and really was in the shadow of its neighbours right around it, in Sloughnale and Lavey and places like this, not too far from him. And you know, that project over the last couple of years under Malachy, obviously there's been huge investment in it, but very exciting to see. And again, for any club out there, go back and look what Glen Maharaj done. They didn't put the house on, they didn't put the roof on the house. They built from the foundations up. They won the Ulster Minor tournament a number of years in a row, the Ulster under-21s. They've brought back through a good group of players, and that's how you build a club up. You know, good coaching structures at your base level, and you build from the bottom up. And now look where they are within, what, Michael, a generation, half a generation?
Yeah, definitely. And their crisis point, Kevin, was, you know, they were playing B-level football and not even winning, and they ended up, it might have been their under-14 team, but it's irrelevant. It ended up in a C final and didn't win it, and that was the moment. This is right, something has to change. And they got a load of people around the table and got a pen and paper and plans, and as you say, they didn't look for the roof. They says, where are we starting? And just a load of good people. And you know, let's face it, how many clubs that are successful don't have that sort of starting point? You have to have it. Interestingly enough, Kilmacud Crooks had only won Dublin Championship before they won the All-Ireland. 1992 they won the Dublin Championship. 1994 they won their second championship, won Leinster, and then won the All-Ireland. So just like Glen, I was actually shocked, a wee bit like the Noy Herders. I thought the Noy Herders dominated for ages, but they didn't win until 1990. So wee bit of correlation there with Kilmacud and Glen, but no, I hope Glen and Deloy do the business this weekend. Ulster says yes, and hopefully they can go home with the bacon, because you must always back your neighbours.
Sorry, Matt, about that. You know, you rebels. Unfortunately, the only rebels are up here in the 6 counties, not them Cavan people.
Don't hear, don't show for the neighbours at all. Jeez, you know, the Kerry boys, we don't care for them at all. So it's great that you're shouting for your neighbours. It's very commendable, actually. So yeah.
Well,
I've always done it, so I'm not going to change now.
Michael's telling lies. There's no way a Derry man was shouting for 2 Tyrone teams last weekend.
I was, and to be honest, I supported Tyrone against Mayo, and funny, I was chatting to CJ. He's half Tyrone now. He was supporting them as well.
Well, I wasn't. I was supporting Mayo. Let's just say that.
Say no more, Kevy. Say no more. Lads, it's great to be back. Thanks a million for joining me this week. And of course, this podcast is brought to you by YourGoRich.com. 20% off on the website for the rest of January, so get your hands on the gear. Matthew Hurley from GA Statsman, former Antrim footballer Kevin McGarty, Gaelic Life journalist Michael McMullen. Thank you very, very much, lads. Cheers.
Night, lads.
Thanks.